Hey everybody, welcome back. I'm Winter, and today I have something a little bit different. A challenge. 1 versus 4 hard AI. But we're not going to make it too easy. Or hard. Mass Marines. Yes, we might build a few other units to make sure we can defend early on, but the challenge is not just to win against 4 AI. And not just 4 hard AI. But to do it with mass Marines. And I have an admission. I want you to like and subscribe if you're like this too. Or if you're not. Either way, just let's make sure that's covered. But I tell people all day, you gotta build tanks, you gotta build Vikings, you gotta build Ghosts and Liberators and all these other units. But much of the time, if I had the opportunity and if I thought it was even remotely a viable strategy for Mir in general, yeah, I'd build mass Marines. Of course I would. Like, come on. Don't quote me, but we all have those days. I have those days and my ladder points go down a lot. But here, at least, if I fail, my ladder points don't go down. I'd be like, Winter, how do we know you didn't just play a dozen games before this and now you finally worked out the perfect strategy? Well, you don't. But if you know me, you know we do it live. Or at least about as close as you can get. In StarCraft, I just want to do a quick tangent before we really get into it. But I feel a little spoiled by StarCraft. I never really realized until I branched out a little. Not a lot, a little into other games, whether it's FPS games, MOBA games, Battle Royales, what have you. StarCraft 2 feels like the near perfect. You don't need to, you don't really need to cut it down. You can't really cut anything out. Like if you're doing an FPS, Headshot, Clutch Master, MLG, 420, XD, Dank Lord, Edge Lord, Lord of Blades, montage. Well, you don't just, all the times you're in the respawn screen running around, or the hotkeys menu apparently, yeah, you gotta edit that out. Like, both the attention span and the actual action, it does not nearly approach 100% of the game. You'd be lucky if it's 30%. Even probably the most exciting, or at least the best designed FPS game, Counter-Strike, in my opinion, doesn't really have. It's a lot of tension, but the actual action, by definition, is a little few and far between. So StarCraft 2, from start to finish, maybe the first couple minutes you can gloss over, but there's always something going on. This is the most stressful part of the game, and I feel like I didn't really appreciate it as much until the last few years because of that. Because there's, like, you really... If I cut this game up into, like, 3 5-minute parts, or however long it ended up being, then you'd be missing out on, 1, most of the action, and 2, a lot of important context. So... with that said, Winter, are you just justifying a severe lack of editing for some misguided and self-serving principle of doing things live? And to that I say, that's just like your opinion, man. And speaking of opinions, the SC2 AI, I've seen a lot of comments of versus AI. It's actually quite impressive. It has its quirks, and one of the big things I've noticed in the past facing it is that for some reason it decides to patrol workers everywhere. It's like artificially inflating its machine APM. There are just always like 1 or 2 workers around. The AI tries to simulate, I think, what a player would do in that scenario, but it ends up being kind of weird about it. When it comes to actual army compositions, though, I want to give you guys a tip as well. If you pick the race, here we're playing against random, so you don't really get as much. And the builds are random, but there's actually like 15 different builds you can pick from against the AI. I do recommend picking at least a couple of the first ones. Like you got your full rush, you got your timing attack. I think the best one for newer players is the timing attack one. Because even the lower level AI will definitely stress test your early game, especially if you're someone who's liable to get a little distracted if a red dot appears somewhere on your screen. So that's my recommendation. As we get into it here, honestly, I feel a little lucky that it didn't decide, or none of them decided to do the early rush or timing attack builds, because there was, I'd say probably a 1 in 3 chance they go down that road. I guess a timing attack could be later on. Could easily be 6-7 minutes. But going 3cc with just a bunker and a tank to defend, especially since, even though this is a ladder 4v4 map, it's one of the community maps, so you can actually wall it off. If you don't remember the old Blizzard maps, could use some work. 4v4, I think this is part of the reason team games were never super popular, is that the effort put into the maps was not extensive. Let's put it that way. But this is one of the more beautiful and fun ones. I like it. I like how it looks. I think, and I did choose this from the ladder pool, but I did look through the ladder pool like, where am I going to be able to take more than one base without getting murdered? And now, if there are air units, turrets, if it was like a Void Ray rush or something, I think I'd be screwed. But thankfully, the turrets will come up before any shenanigans as well. So the goal is going to be, as I mentioned, Marines. That's it. Well, medevacs as well, of course. No silly Baneling bus. Yeah, that was not the ideal Baneling bus there. Stalkers. And you know, every time you see, whether it's a Gold League player or a hard AI making mass Stalker, you gotta breathe a sigh of relief. Because that nerd, virtual or otherwise, does not know what they're doing. This confirms to me that while we're dealing with 3 different races at least, I believe it's 2 Terrans at this point. We got team colors on, not player colors. Later on, maybe we'll switch over to player colors so I can play whack-a-mole on bases if we get to that point, but yeah. So at this point, if it's red, make it dead, as the saying goes. So we have 2 Terrans, a Protoss and a Zerg. But none of these units, I guess there's an element of RNG. That's why, I mean, it's called random. I'm getting very lucky right now that we are just dealing with medium or early tier ground units. No Void Rays, no Mutas, at least not yet. Just Stalkers, Marines, Marauders. A key point is going to be upgrades as well. Upgrades and decisiveness. You can already see one of the things the AI does struggle with, even the updated modern AI, is committing to an attack. It kind of went around looking for an opportunity. Finally, well, a couple Ravens. All right. That was quite a... I take it back. All right, that was some real commitment right there. And that is a gold base. When did that get there? You know, I think if I was to min-max this strat, we'd go for the gold base a lot earlier. But so far, I've gotten away with 120 supply. On track to max out. Maybe a little after 10 minutes, assuming not getting supply block constantly, which is a bit of a strong assumption to make. Nice. Now, drop supply. By the way, dropping supply is not nearly the economic hit. Back in the day, mules used to mine about 30% more than they do now. which made it a much clearer choice of whether dropping supply or dropping a mule was a better option. It was always dropping a mule. But nowadays, mules don't mind quite as much. Larva inject doesn't do quite as much. No. Stalkers, sentries, stutter step, marines. Observer there. Now, I don't know if killing an observer has any effect on the AI's behavior, but why not? It's my reflex, really. If I see that shimmer, you just kind of get in the habit of scanning it. Just very humble brag there. So, what are we dealing with? The Stalkers, at this point, I think it's pretty clear the Protoss, not much of a threat, but siege tanks, on the other hand, definitely a little tougher fish to fry. This is a confusing Warpin. There's a pylon there. But one of the Terrans going some sort of bio-curious though. We got barracks, factories, but they all die to Marines.
Somebody, get me out of this mess. Ready for production.
Armed and ready. Army upgrade.
Those slow Warpins on that pylon.
Under attack.
Upgrades finishing up.
Supply depots insufficient. Superior. Who wants some? Upgrade completed.
Yeah, those sensor towers paying off here. I think sensor towers. I definitely need to add more sensor towers into ladder. They're not that expensive. I mean, at this point, let's not look at the minerals. Who's looking at the minerals, right? Let's look at that marine micro. Stutter step. Mostly just stutter step. But so satisfying. So snappy. I gotta say, playing other, even modern RTS has really helped me appreciate the technological accomplishment that SC2 is. I am looking forward to Frost Giant, without going too far into detail, but they do have the engineer who designed the StarCraft 2 engine working for them, so I have high hopes. I can't wait to be disappointed because my expectations are way too high. By Frost Giant, so looking forward to that.
No, not possible. Supply.
It needs to be StarCraft 3, Warcraft 4, and something new and original, and better in every way at release next month. Like, well, that seems maybe a little much, but is that an overseer? Yes. Catch the tanks on the way. We rally Marines. So far, down go the Marines. The AI getting caught out. Hydras, Ravagers. I will say that just facing mostly ground and being able to take out that mech player so far has done very well. And it's time to push in towards victory. I'm thinking... Now this is the first time I've tried something like this in a while. I did want to give myself room to grow. And by that I mean I didn't want to start with the elite AI just because one, I want you to tell me, Winter, you didn't even play against the elite AI. Like, why would I watch your video over that video from 12 years ago of somebody playing against the elite AI? Well, because of my glowing personality and my stunning good looks. Also, part of it is I want to test different strategies, ideas, and I hope this gives people... Yeah, that right now the Marines are doing very well. I am surprised by how well they're doing. I did think we'd see a little more resistance. I know individually one of these AI is more like a gold leaguer, but I guess when you fight them one by one, well, that's not the ideal drop. Get some more medevacs. And my favorite upgrade, rapid reignition system. We get to start it up. Rapid reignition system. Not just medevac boost cooldown, medevac speed. Okay, a lot of people don't realize that. Like, they get the fusion core for their battle cruisers, but medevac, it's just base medevac speed. Might be like, Winter, The only thing that does for me is help me fly over high ground and lose my medevacs to stalkers while I'm not paying attention faster. It's like, so they're building stalkers. Ultralisk! Oh, paperless. That is a risk. With a rapid reignition system, I definitely do that as well. Ah! Okay, guys. Hello. Stalker's not great, but they are when you don't shoot at them.
Ready for dust off.
Upgrade complete. Mineral field exhausted.
Well, those Marines need rehab or, I don't know, maybe divine intervention. But it 30-40 Marines to get through a couple bases, and this is
Cluster expanded.
where the fun begins. I think at this point we've pretty much knocked down enough of them that it feels like mop-up time. A little surprised by how relatively easy it was. Is that a tank? Why do you have a tank? That's not a real life tank, is it? That's a hallucinated tank. Oh, those are Colossi.
Somebody, get me out of this mess.
Army.
But even one Protoss army, as Terrans well know, one well-upgraded Protoss... You just build a tank? No, it's reflex. Okay, I can't help it.
Completed. Mineral field exhausted.
We could use some help here. You gonna get been waiting on you. Go. Oh yeah.
Life flight's here.
Medevacs without any Marines left. Seen that story before. Those are carriers.
Understood.
Yeah, carrier, Void Ray, Colossus. We've graduated off the Stalkers here. Unfortunately, though, the Protoss army's kind of coming together.
Command center.
3-3 Marines are great, but there is a number of Colossi that it makes it... The number's like 4 or 5 Colossi before the Marines are unable to get within the same... Yeah, that's the correct move with the tank. Free up some supply. What are you doing? No cheating. This isn't the cheater AI. Cheater AI does, I think, get extra minerals or in gas or something like that. I don't know.
Supply limit reached. No, not
Ready for dust off.
We'll do. This better be good.
But
Ready for dust off.
We could use some help here.
there is also another thing to consider. When you have 200 supply of Marines,
reached.
I mean, and you have 70, 80 SCVs, you only have 120 army supply. We're not... That's not the Colossus. That's the Colossus. Micro.
Mineral cluster expended.
Life flight's here.
At this point, we're just pumping out as much as you can. This is more of a... Almost feels like an Age of Empires 2 game. With the Marine turnover rate here. Another round.
Base under siege.
Those are ghosts. Ghosts actually... Okay, that's not nearly enough units. What are their upgrades? We do have a planetary. 1-1. Yeah, ghosts actually... Since ghosts do counter every unit in the game...
Under siege.
Yeah, they also counter Marines. As they do extra damage against light. They easily kill Marines in relatively close numbers. Or supply numbers.
Field exhausted.
And this is starting to become concerning. At first, honestly, I thought I would walk over and win the game. Once we get through the first base or two here, but now I'm thinking, they're not dying. Uh-oh. More command centers. There's still plenty of bases to take, or so I think. But units are starting to get through here. Money's starting to dry up. Marines are starting to become less effective. I can kill a base or two, but there's just not enough weight to throw around.
Command center. Mineral field depleted.
Taken up.
Now, at this point,
Expended.
I think with just a ball of Marines, it's not gonna cut it. I think you gotta, yeah. We're gonna turn off team colors, turn on player colors, which I then realize I pick red. So that's not ideal. So now I'm red and everyone else. Which does make things confusing, but it allows you to isolate. So the idea is to make it, to actually eliminate as many players as possible, which means some whack-a-mole here. The Zerg tech tree being cut down. Another Terran, another Terran. Maybe we can scan. Another Terran. Wait, no, that's the same Terran. Alright, they all blend together. All Terrans look alike to me.
Not possible.
So many stims. I'd like to get a count on the stims this game. Alright, that seems a bit gratuitous. Morbidals. The Protoss has not showed up in a while.
Vespene geyser depleted.
We could use some help here.
Vespene geyser exhausted.
What's going on?
Starting to mine out. I mean, with over 9,000 gas, it's going to be hard to... That's a lot of medevacs of gas. As I think at this point, I have +3 ship, or just mech armor, which is slightly different. It's both. It's both. It's not slightly different. It's both, to be clear. I think... So... We're locking it down. It's not there yet. Oh my, a disruptor. You ready? Can you use that thing? Oh my.
Life flight's here.
No, not possible. Supply limit reached.
I don't know how they always, just like your typical Metal League player, always enough money to expand.
No, not possible.
Ready for dust off.
This better be good.
Mineral field depleted.
Been waiting on
The scan wave
Pick up.
does not reveal anything. There's nothing over in that top right.
armed and ready. Sure. You got it.
Vespene geyser exhausted.
By the numbers, boys. Armed and ready. This better be good.
Wait.
Oh, there we are. It appears the Terran, I think when all the command centers are shut down. Anyways, I'm sorry. I zoned out a bit. But yeah, not easy. Kind of hard. Appropriately. I think at this point it's mop up. But what would you like to see? This is kind of... I'm dipping my toe into this idea. I do want to try, and you might have noticed. I've been trying some other things, some other games. Oh.
Army upgraded.
And by other games, I mean custom games, arcade games. Honestly, this is already stuff, especially if you don't watch the stream. I was already playing a lot of them. It's not a big change up for me in terms of what I'm playing. It's just, I was inspired somewhat by Grant's video to actually put the effort in and show off some of these games. And I think while we can watch Byun versus Max Packs every single time, and by that I mean like 3 times a week, there is room. There are these exciting and different things you can do. StarCraft 2 is like 7 different games in one. It's actually ridiculous. So, for the next versus AI challenge, first, you watch this far. So, that's already a +1, a thumbs up, a like button smashed. But, what do you want to see for the next one? An actual challenge. I'll admit, this went pretty smooth. And while educational and while hopefully entertaining, I want a real challenge. What is the next challenge of the same theme? Versus 7 Elite AI. I know people have done it, but it's a tough one, and I'm sure you can add some to it. There's some extension mods you can add, like half damage, or not half damage, half HP for your units, in order to increase the difficulty even more so. I know there's some of the, oh my, everyone,
Not enough energy.
the ultimate Venn diagram. And we've got our pro tip coming up for those who don't know. We're just gonna jump in. This is your pro tip time. Medevacs. The unit that everyone below Masters wants to build in Micro, but almost never should. A few tips on those medevac drops. You might have noticed me. I do actually have a video, by the way, if you want to search for an actual guide. But here are some quick tips. If you press the D key, or the unload key, whatever it might be, you press the D key on the medevacs, it says unload on the medevacs, and they will unload no matter what they're doing. But it is not limited to that. Another tip, you can move the medevac with units in it by just pressing the D key on the ground. The medevacs without units in them will not issue a drop command because they have nothing to drop. And one more tip is you can actually shift click the drop while moving. It's a little finicky to do, but right click, shift click, and then without even touching the medevac, it'll drop while moving along another shift click. This is how some of those especially slick and incredibly well-timed like Widowmine drops or just Marine drops come out from players like Byun. They're actually shift queuing the drop while moving. So hopefully those tips help you out, maybe inspire you to check out that video. And also you enjoyed this match. Let's take a look at the stats. Oh, achievements, of course. I did wow, the AI trying the low APM challenge and succeeding. 100, 116. The Protoss had the highest APM of all race. Of course, the score looking good. 880 units killed. 245 structures. Would you guys calm down? And, well, they just didn't build workers. Or mine quite as much. Mules are quite good. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope that you check out more videos. What ideas do you have? This is definitely me trying something a little new, but I hope you enjoyed it. And I hope I made your day a little bit better. Good luck. Have fun. I'll see you next time. Stay chill.